It's my pleasure to introduce Kirk MacKenzie. He's the founder and the #1 principal guy in Defend Rural America. And Chuck, partner in front here tonight. So without further ado,
knock it out of the park.
I'm kind of a quiet speaker. I'm not used to talking loud. Can you hear me in the back okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I may not make it through the whole thing. I got to warn you ahead of time. It is my honor to be here. I am so glad to be here and with you and sharing, frankly, in this battle with you. Briefly about me, people seem to like to know that. I don't like to talk about it much. But I'm a technology guy. I spent a whole career in high tech. You want to talk computers, software, operating systems, Java, I'm there. Fuzzy logic, neural net processing, I mean, I got it. I was the guy behind 2 of Intel's 3 great marketing programs, including the little angle line Intel Inside. And I'm going to come back to the importance of positioning, because I am an expert at it, and we're not doing it very well. I also was the California State Chair for Ross Perot's United We Stand America. That was after the election event, our same issues that we had there. We wanted to take a difference. In that case of NAFTA. The public did not understand that NAFTA is a sovereignty issue. It is not a trade agreement. And so we got involved in that thing and we fought the fight. I've been to Washington, D.C. I've talked to the aides. I talked to 22 congressmen. We did the letters. We did the faxes. We did all that. It's a waste of time. I'll come back to talk about that. I kind of reactivated about 3-4 years ago because there was now the second time that we've had people get off the couch. In that 20-year period of difference between these 2 times that I got off the couch, I've studied the world. I have studied it in a way that nobody can possibly begin to comprehend the depth and the breadth of my understanding. And I don't say that to boast. I just say it because the movement is missing a lot of knowledge. And it's like an unguided thing at this point in time. You have to really, truly understand the world. And I do. And I thought perhaps I can bring that knowledge to bear. I know all the mistakes that we made back with United We Stand America. I was in the middle of it. I know about egos and backstabbing and people who wanted to have credit for this, that, and the other. I know about Ross not really giving the support he should. I've been at his home. I've been at his business. I've talked to him individually and personally. I know all that. My hope is that I can begin to help to make this movement more successful. I put out a YouTube video called How to Take Our Country Back. And what motivated me to do that is because we're screwing up. And so if you haven't watched that one, that's a good one for you to watch. It talks about things like focus, strategy, understanding what really counts, losing the ones that don't count, but picking all your time on the ones that do count. I followed that up with one called part 2, the tactics. How do we do this? I suggest you watch that one as well. I came to defend rural America for a number of reasons. First, I was born in Idaho. I love the outdoors. I'm an open space kind of guy. I love the mountains. I love the whole thing. We go up to Kalispell, Montana every year. My wife and I spend about a month there. It is what kind of rejuvenates my soul. I understand the difficulties we have in trying to figure out where do we get success, where do we get traction. It's not going to happen in the San Francisco Bay Area where I live. We've got a lot of people fighting the good fight and they're wasting their time, they're beating their heads against the wall because they are never going to win. We've lost there. We've lost the major urban areas. So when I happened to meet with Jerry Botchkalupi and his wife Donna at a meeting here in San Mateo, I exchanged my ideas about how we're making mistakes, how we could improve. He was informing me about what was going on in Siskiyou County, and I was coming up to the Reading Tea Party to make a presentation anyway, and Jerry said, why don't you come up and stay at the ranch? I took him up on that instantaneously. I said, Jerry, one of my messages is we've got to tell our story through human interest stories that evoke emotion. You can't just be left-brained all the time. We guys are great at left-brained. Left brain does not change attitudes. It takes emotions. So I said, Jerry, I'd like to bring up my camera. I'd like to videotape some of the people up there if they want to go on the record to tell their story. He set me up with 43 people. I was filming for 5 days from 7 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And I turned it into a documentary video, the story of Siskiyou County. And what they told me transformed me, because I realized that the heartland is now at risk as well. And I understand everything you've said tonight and the nature of the fight that's going on. And I made a commitment to make a difference. And I pulled out all the stops: website, email, Twitter, Facebook. I have written a book, if you don't know, on the monetary system, done documentary videos. I pulled out all the stops. We held an event. You may have heard about it in Waimika, California, October 22nd, 2011. The DRA launch up there. Most famous because of the sheriff's panel. I was the one to pull together the panel. It's become known as the Sheriff Stand Tall for the Constitution, including Sheriff John Loby, Gil Gerwitson, and the others. That led then to the ability for Sheriff Mack to be able to pull up the money he needed to go ahead and do a bigger event in Las Vegas. I've made the commitment because this is really the last line of defense. Rural America is where we have the values, we have the people that are willing to fight. You're being victims. You are victims. And if anybody is going to fight back, it's the people who are being victimized, losing their properties, losing their homes, losing their livelihoods, losing their children, frankly, as the Siskiyou County stories tell me so clearly. One of the most popular videos that I released recently was out of those documentary videos was one by Frank Tellerico, a retired school superintendent up in Waimika, that talked about the impact to the children because of what the government is doing to that county. It's now got 6,500 views. I haven't even done anything about it. And it's crawled up 10 times above all the other videos of the other 9 people I had released at that point in time. How to Take Our Country Back now has about 57,000 views. In total, videos that I have worked on and events I have worked at have had over 200,000 views. So why am I here today? Because your problems are my problems. Even though I live in the San Francisco Bay and I have a technology background and a marketing background, I'm not a gold miner, your problems are my problems. And I'm here to tell you that you have the full support of the Defend Rural America movement. All of the DRA teams across the state of California are fully aware and informed of what's going on here and what's going on with the mining associations. I guess another reason I'm here today is that I've had some success stories. And we'll talk about this. We're not alone. You are not alone. It's not just mining that's under attack. Farming is under attack. They're trying to turn off the water. They've got such tight regulations you can't even remove a rock from your own irrigation line. You can't put an irrigation line unless they tell you to do so. They're releasing in the farm and the ranching all the same problems, but now they're releasing the wolves. The wolves are absolutely devastating the elk herds. Elk herds in Idaho have gone from 17,500 to less than 2,000, wiping them out. The wolves that were released in Yellowstone have now spread across at least 8 states. And these are not native. These are wolves brought down from Canada. Some of these weigh 160 pounds. If you want to see a wolf, go take a look at the Defend Rural America website and the page on the wolf story. And it's not the only predators they're going after. Mountain lions, cougars. I guarantee you they'll be after the grizzly bear here to bring them back. Maybe that's a good one because grizzlies used to be in San Francisco.
Start there.
Forestry. Our forests are being destroyed because of government policies. They're not allowing people to go into them. They're blocking, shutting off the roads. They're shutting off the forestry people under false pretenses. As a result, they're denying any commercial use of the forest. As a result, nobody's cutting the trees.
Yep.
The trees are now 10 to 20 times the density that they should be in a healthy forest. They're getting so stacked They're just fuel waiting to go off. The water, they suck up the water streams. It affects inflows and rivers. These have actually been tested and proven. You'll actually see the creek or a water or river suck down 30 to 40% during the day because the trees are soaking up that much water. It doesn't come back up until the nighttime. All these things are tied together. So they're destroying. And when the fires go off, they have catastrophic fires because the fuel is so intense. Tens or hundreds of tons of fuel go up at once. The fires go flying up into the trees, they go up the canopies, they race across the canopies, and they can't stop them. It gets so hot that the ground literally melts. And the forest policy now is they don't reseed them. What I see is not just miners or ranchers or farmers. What I see is rural America. You've got to adopt a bigger message than just your own personal problems. How are they attacking us, and what's the nature of the attack? They're shutting off and taking down our natural resources, our land, our water, our forests, our minerals. There is, by the latest estimate, $150 trillion of national resources just here in the western states. And they're shutting them off. They're blowing up the dams, they're taking away the hydropower, they're shutting down the forest, they're denying us. We're now becoming, California, which was an exporter of wood, now imports about 90% of the lumber we need. As a nation, we're going to begin to import lumber. Food is being attacked because of reduced water, to agriculture. They're attacking our rights, our unalienable rights, including among those free will. They're attacking the very nature of the whole concept of this country based upon representative government, a republic. They're attacking the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. They're attacking capitalism. They're attacking local government. They're attacking free enterprise. Who's doing this? And I'm tired of pulling punches anymore, so if you're not up to the level of this message, I'm going to tell you that this is, I guarantee you this is the truth. The central bankers are behind a worldwide vision that they have to change the entire planet. The Rockefellers funded the United Nations. They're the ones that are behind Agenda 21. They're the ones that wrote the reports. They're the ones that burned the book called Report from Iron Mountain, which was leaked some of the information that they're working on. They're the ones that published the book, The Unfinished Agenda. They're behind it. Who else is doing this to us? Government at all levels. Yeah. And not because the people in government are evil, but the system has been changed. It has been changed from the top down. We're being attacked by big money. We're being attacked by this word called governance. Governance. What does governance mean? It is the code word that's being used in the United Nations and by the globalists. What it says is we don't have to take over government. We'll just provide the governance. Now what does that say? Government has two functions, policy and enforcement. What they are doing is taking the policy making away from the democratically elected, accountable, and hopefully transparent government representatives that represent our interests. And they're moving that away into regional governments, NGOs, United Nations, local entities. And what they then do is come back and dictate policy to you, and now all your local government is for enforcement. When I went up to Siskiyou County, I started filming the one single message that came out from all 43 people. They don't care about us anymore. They don't. They don't believe in democracy. They don't. They believe in centralized planning, tops-down control, a few dictate to all the rest. We've also been affected and attacked by corrupted courts and corrupted laws, and whole corrupted political, legal philosophies, such as, for example, the belief that they could abolish common law. We're being attacked by scientific fraud, scientific misconduct. Now, this isn't just theory. You know, let me just give you one simple example. Up in Siskiyou County, the argument is that the fish can't go up far enough upriver to go, we need to blow up 4 dams, hydropower dams, mind you, so they can go another 20 miles upstream. Those dams are 200 miles from the ocean. And the river itself is quite warm and murky because unlike other mountains, it emanates in a desert area in a very shallow lake that has all kinds of phosphates in it because it's a volcanic region, so the water has lots of blue-green algae. It's poor habitat. 85% of the salmon spawn within 25 miles of the coast. They're going to blow up this dam. It's going to release 20 million cubic yards of accumulated sediment. Now, what is that accumulated sediment? It's the dam slowing down the river and filtering this dirty water out. The blue-green algae drops to the bottom. It works like a big water filter. The water is also too warm for the salmon. They die at the temperatures this water comes in at. It cools it down because the water gets deep. But no, they're going to blow this dam up. The river in the summertime would dry up before the dams went in. We know this from Rex Casalio, whose family has been there for 5 generations, has been there before the dam went in. And his place, I've been to his place, is only 2 miles downstream. He knows this place. 20 million cubic yards of sediment to give you some feeling that they're going to tend to release into the Klamath River system is enough muck to cover a 2-lane road 1 foot deep for a distance of 1,600 miles. And they're saying that's going to be beneficial to the fish. They're also going to destroy the fish hatchery, which produces 6 million salmon per year. But they don't count hatchery fish because they're not, well, they're psychologically different from the ones that are wild. Not genetically different, mind you, but psychologically somehow they're a little bit different.
Bipolar fish.
There will be no salmon in that river. And if there are no salmon for 3 years, which is the life cycle of the salmon, they're going to have to be replanted once again, which they tried to do before the dams went in 3 times, starting in 1898, I believe it was, and they always failed because this water is not really good for the fish. But nonetheless, they keep pumping out, I could go on and on and on, false scientific arguments. We raised hell. Dr. John Mankey from UC Berkeley happens to live up there, now a good friend of mine. When we got enough public opinion out there, the word about Siskiyou County started spreading around California and even the nation as a result of the event of the things that I've done. It reaches Dr. Paul Hauser, the Science Integrity Officer in the Department of Interior, who blows a whistle and says the environmental impact report is designed to bring about a predetermined outcome of destroying the dams. He was fired by Ken Zellerzar. He's not the only one. If you're familiar with Drake's Bay Oyster Farm, they're trying to shut down a business that's been there since I think 1940s or so, out there in Marin County. Now this is what I love, because here's a liberal county who thought they were environmentalists, and they're beginning to wake up to the fact that they're in the targets too. They don't want coastal ranching. And the first one they're going after is Drake's Bay Oyster Farm and shutting it down. Ken Zellerzar, once again, all these scientific arguments being laid out why they should shut this thing down. All of them false. Dr. Corey Goodman happens to live there. There's a member of the Scientific Academy. He is a well-respected venture capitalist. He is in the healthcare sciences. They are raising lambs to make some of the best goat cheese that you can make. And he started to study the details and completely laid out the intentional, serial, and ongoing misrepresentation and actually flat out fraud in the data that was being shown. I'll give you just one example, 2 examples. They claim that this has to come out because of the endangerment to the red-legged frog. Now the red-legged frog for endangered species seems to be everywhere across this country because they're shutting down private land everywhere because of it. There's only one problem with that. Frogs die in salt water. They don't go anywhere near the oyster farm. But they were saying that they were endangering them. They're a freshwater amphibian, nowhere around. This business has a little motorboat, and I've been on it. Jenny and Lindy was kind enough to, one of the co-owners, Jenny Lundy and Kevin Lundy, I've done a documentary video on them as well, and Dr. Corey Goodman, went out and took me out of the little eel. They have a little putt-putt motor that's 25 horsepower. Two-cycle. We take about a half an hour to go about a mile or so to get into the bay. I mean, it's pretty slow. They claimed that they were causing enough noise to disturb the seals. Turns out from about 50 to 100 feet, you cannot tell the sound of this from the background noise in the bay. Dr. Corey Goodman actually chased down the data. You know what he found? They never came out and actually measured the boat. They took data from a cement mixer, a military cement mixer, and said that was comparable data. When he called them on the carpet because of that, they changed the report. Now they use the jet ski on the East Coast with the 75 horsepower 4-cycle. Two cycle and 4, get those confused which one was which. A very noisy device as the basis for how, saying it's too noisy. Every single argument has been refuted, authoritatively so. And by the way, he's now pushing this issue directly up, and he's demanding that, who's a science guy for Obama's Holdren? He's demanding that the only investigation that makes any sense at this point in time is going to be if the science advisor, senior science advisor to Obama personally gets involved in this issue. They now, whereas the courts went along with the Salazar fraud, 9th District Court, in a rare moment of clarity, has actually said, hey, wait a minute, hold the tracks. If you're going to damage people's lives, there has to be a compelling reason to do so, and we don't see where that is. We're going to send that back and let it go to trial. And guess what? In that judge's statement, they quote the fact of all the public outcry. I want you to remember this public outcry. It is a war, and we're losing. And we cannot continue to do the same things and expect different results. Why are we losing? I spent a lot of time thinking about this. First is we're pretty much of a good people. We have good values. We tend to leave people alone, and we want to be left alone in return. Live and let be. And we can't frankly believe that the government has been bad. It is an agenda. Now the news media will work with the people to try and convince you that no, there's a debate going on and there's fairness and we're trying to take care of the fish and we're trying to do this and we're trying to take care of the river. It isn't about that. It isn't about that at all. It's an agenda. And we didn't understand that. Second, we have no foundation. These lawsuits come about, an individual gets attacked, where do you go? You have no email list, you have no website, you have no knowledge about how to fight this thing legally, you don't know who to go to, time and time and time and time again. We're always on the defense. We generally find out about these problems when they're already on the 99-yard line. They've already been doing this for years and we didn't know it. Claiming that there was sufficient public input when you know that not to be the case. We're not proactive. We don't invest the time to build that foundation upon which we can fight back effectively. We're not prepared because we don't have the knowledge, the awareness, or the tools. We have a limited ability to reach out. We continue to fight these as legal battles as we talked about, and I'm not going to dissuade people from do that. They're going to happen, but we will lose the war because we don't have enough money and the courts are not on our side. We're also losing because, frankly, we're not very comfortable with being confrontational. And the other side uses that to a great advantage and delight. We just want to get along. Our moral compass is to respect others. But it's not a two-way road. So defend rural America. Why defend rural America? Was to address the problems that I saw. To build a foundation upon which we can use to fight all these battles. And by the way, I'm going to go back one step. Why else are we losing? Poor positioning. We don't know how to put out a message that affects the opinion. When I went up to Siskiyou County, I heard 43 people bitch about their problems. I've heard the same thing tonight. I like to listen to them personally, and I agree with them. And I think they're very important. But you know what? People in San Francisco Bay Area don't care about your problems. They don't. In fact, your neighbor probably doesn't care about your problems. All they care about is themselves. And you don't convey your story in a way that's meaningful to the person that's listening to you. You have to do that. We tend to convey our stories as left brain instead of being right brain. Let's take the word suction dredge. There, you've lost the battle. Where do you go? You have lost the battle right there. I'll tell you something else. I was hired into a company as a vice president. I have been vice president of marketing and sales of 2 different venture capital finance companies and the CEO of a third. I was brought in, and the first thing I started thinking about is what the hell have we got in this company? What can I do with it? How do you position it? The company makes fuzzy logic. Now, you've probably never heard about fuzzy logic in your life, right? This is computer technology. I don't know if you remember 5th generation computers, neural linguistic processing, neural net processing. Fuzzy logic was one of those. Would you buy a computer that has a fuzzy logic processor inside?
Geek, you
Would you?
Yeah.
You lost the battle. Suction, dredge mining, and you have lost your PR battle. The first thing you need to do is to change that word. And you need to get your manufacturers and your trade associations to go along.
Green mining.
How about things like, a vacuum cleaner? Or portable filtration system? Or clean water sweeper? When I hear the word dredge, I have seen all those books that I went to school, those big machines and mountains of gravel, and you haven't done a very good job in helping the community to understand what you're really talking about, these little portable rafting systems with 1.5, 2.5, 3 horsepower engines on them. They're not what people envision. You've got to address that, poor positioning. And we have fragmented messages. So we're about building a foundation. Foundation starts with the truth. The truth is, after 25 years, I can tell you, studying the world, and it's cost me about 40% of my kidney functions. I got so angry. Angry. If you ever get anywhere near the depth of my understanding of this, you may lose your kidney functions too. Because the real world is very different. Anybody watch the movie The Matrix?
Yep. Yeah.
We are those human beings in those glass caskets with information being fed into our brains through TV that comes from New York City, brainwashing us into believing that this democratic republic, fairness world exists. But in fact, the reality is they're sucking the juices out of us to fund their new world order and their global governance and top-down control. And the monetary system is a big part of that problem. We have to start from truth. Next, those of us who figured it out, we owe a duty to come up with what I call a toolkit. That is the information, that's how we can convey it to others. I wrote a book on the monetary system. I don't know how many videos I've done at this point in time, how many presentations I made and speeches I made, and over 150 radio shows and so on. But we owe it to get you that information. The Defend Rural America website is a free encyclopedia of everything that besets rural America. Make use of it. It talks about Constitution, it talks about wolves, all on one website. Pretty interesting span, and by the way, mining is in there. Along with things like coordination, jurisdiction, land patents. It's arranged very simply. We're attacking the nature of the war, the stories of the victims, who's behind it, what are their strategies, how do we fight that. The next part of the foundation is we need to communicate, coordinate, and cooperate. Now, you're beginning to come together as a mining group. There are not enough miners to win. 80,000 is a pretty impressive number, and I didn't realize Rick you got into that, but that is a pretty impressive. But there's 3,500 counties in the country. So that's maybe 30 person on average per county. You don't have enough oomph to get there. The farmers don't have enough. The ranchers don't have enough. The dairymen don't have enough. The forestry people don't have enough. And what I see is all of you are, in fact, instead of fighting these little skirmishes in the individual battles, there's a war. And we're fighting as a bunch of little skirmishes. If you realize it's a war, then you realize we have to unite our message under one flag, which I believe is rural America, to defend rural America. You continue to fight the mining issues, but you need to understand what's happening with the farmers, with the ranchers, the dairy people, the forestry people. And when they need you, you need to be there. And when you need them, they need to be here. It's really quite that simple. One for all and all for one. It's a tried and true formula. The labor unions figured it out. I would like to help you convince rural Americans this is the course to your salvation. You've got to come together. Now, I'm not asking you to take the time away from your own efforts or anything else. All I'm asking is that everybody has to begin to think in a bigger context and to begin to work in a much more cooperative fashion. The communication that I talked about, I have built a complete communication backbone which matrixes out and has county level, state level, national level, topic related breakouts so we can communicate as need be at any level. It has an infrastructure is in place. Defend Rural America is purely by voluntary participation by individuals and organizations. It is not an organization. I'm not here to tell the miners what to do or how to do it or anything else. I'm not here trying to take it and build another entity. That doesn't work. You've got your own groups, your own email lists, your own websites, and fantastic for it. But I am proposing that Defend Rural America is the hub where you can all come together and work together. Chuck here is today from Stanislaus County. I don't see, we had Jan was going to come from Fresno. It doesn't look like she made it, but she will be filled in. You're also going to find on that strategy something that's badly missing. We hear a lot of complaining. I hear a lot of people trying to talk about things like Agenda 21 or this, that, the other. Where's the strategy? Right. Who in this movement is talking about a strategy? I know just about as many people in this movement as anybody does. I can tell you there's only one that's talking about strategy. And also tactics. How do we actually implement those strategies? That's what Defend Rural America is all about. It's premised on the notion that we need a new revival of people, an uprising. And I don't mean revolutionary. If anything, I mean restoration. People have to come and grab the reins one more time and straighten things out. It is us that define government, not the other way around. It belongs to us, and it has no authority but what we give it. Jurisdiction. Doyle Shanley in Apache County, Arizona. If you're not familiar with that story, you need to. In 1962, President Dwight Eisenhower printed a report. He said, what jurisdiction does the federal government have over these so-called public lands? It turns out, and he categorized 4 different levels of jurisdiction plus the 5th miscellaneous budget category. From the federal government has total jurisdiction to essentially no jurisdiction. 95% of the lands that are considered to be public lands, the federal government has no jurisdiction. By the government's own admission, the states did not cede to the federal government jurisdiction over those lands. Your county governments have the power today to open up the roads, as they did in Apache County, and start cutting down forests. They passed 2 resolutions in Apache County. One, a declaration of emergency. The state of emergency exists in that county because the fires, they just had the biggest fire of their history. There's more forest to come. Their communities were at risk. And under the proper duties of your local government, health, welfare, and safety, they declare a state of emergency. And the second one says we're going to open up those roads and we're going to start cutting down those trees. And they sent this to the local forestry people. And they said, we want to work with you to make this happen because the forest needs it. It's what the spotted owls need. It's what everything needs when you look at the destruction. But you know what? If you don't go along, we're going to go ahead and do it anyway because it's in our jurisdiction to do. Now, what do they do about road closures? If you've heard about travel plans, you understand how they're shutting down the roads illegally. Sheriff Dan Palmer up in Oregon, who was one of the 8 that came on down to the 10th, has talked to retired forestry people. You know what they told him? He said, well, we went out one year and we closed a couple roads down and nobody complained. Next year we went and shut down 4 or 5. He says, we knew we were doing it illegally. We didn't know we didn't have the authority, but we did it. And they kept doing it as long as they can get away with it. Then they removed them from the map so you don't even know they ever existed.
Exactly.
In Apache County, Arizona, he got the map pre and post. You know, the map post looks like, well, you know, here's this big area, Apache County, and there's a few little things kind of winding its way.
Yep.
The one pre, my God, it looks like a spider web in there of roads. They've removed them from the maps, shut them down. Their county sheriff, under the directive, with the full support of their board of supervisors, went out there and they cut the locks, opened up the gates, and then relocked them in open position and put a sign on the lock that says, this is the property of the county, and if anybody messes with it, we're going to come after you. Those gates have remained open. He's had a program where he's actually brought in and gotten the cooperation of basically the Forest Service people who, once they had an opportunity to do the job that they really hired to do, they came in willfully and helpfully and actually paying for a lot of the projects. He's brought in the whole community. He's got free firewood for the elderly. He's coming up with biomass to generate energy for their county. They now have got the 5th mill coming back into the county. They had 0.
What county?
That Apache County, Arizona, the story is on the Federal America website. Your county has the power to do that, and I have brought Doyle Shanley up into California. He has been here. He has been throughout California giving that story. We have yet to see a Board of Supervisors move forward on this. I hope El Dorado County will take a lead.
Well, we're going to hand you a chainsaw. You're going to cut the first tree.
All right.
Let me tell you something. There's a videotape of about 4 or 5 guys that are sitting there talking to the local forest guy, and off in the distance, the guy paints the video, and here's all these armed, you know, AR-15, bulletproof vest kind of guys, you know, over the side, right? And these 4 or 5 guys were trained on things like jurisdiction, like land patents. They knew the constitutional rights. And they said, hey, we want these forests open. And this dialogue goes on. You can see the whole discussion because they videotaped it. And the fourth guy says, no, bottom line, I don't have the authority. I can't do that. I have to pass up the chain of command. You know, I was blah, blah, blah. And they said, we're going to do it today. And we're not going away. And he kept giving them a party line, and he wasn't getting very far. They wouldn't back down. So finally he says, well, okay, I'll work with you, but, you know, it'll take me a couple weeks. They said, we're going to do it today. And you know what finally happened when you stood up? The guy says, okay, we'll take care of it. Let my team do it. Everything he told them up to that point was a lie. You have to stand up and demand the authority and the jurisdiction that belongs to the people.
That's right.
Just real quick, the Apache County story is a story about a community that was at risk of catastrophic fire, and the Forest Service was not responding to these catastrophic fires. And you have United States Forest Service forest all over the western United States. In Northern California, you've got some forests where it's very difficult for the forest supervisor to work with the localities. I will tell you, in our county, we've got a gentleman, Eric, in the back that was on the Fire Safe Council for Grizzly Flat. We have Fire Safe Councils in Pollock Pines and up in Georgetown. So we, in this county, we do have a good relationship. It always could be better, but we do have a good relationship. So it depends on the county, it depends on the forest, and it depends on that relationship that's built on trust. And we can do a lot better. But there are counties in Northern California, like in the Plumas, no matter what's proposed, what's proposed in that forest, there's environmental opposition. No matter, I think, I've been told, no matter what it is, there's opposition. So we're pretty lucky in this county that we have a good working relationship, and it can be better. Like with the 42 roads, we're trying to keep them all
I'm not
open.
letting you let you right off with this. I want to see jurisdiction asserted.
No, I understand. I understand.
Let me take back over the presentation here. Let me finish up because I'm close to the end. The power resides here in the county to nullify. I have a theme throughout what the strategy is called a constitutional county. I want a constitutional sheriff. I want a constitutional board of supervisors.
Right.
I want a constitutional district attorney. And when I say constitutional, I'm saying things that probably most of you don't really quite understand, and I guarantee most that believe they understand the Constitution don't. The fraud of the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, the non-passage of the 16th Amendment, the 17th Amendment. I'm talking about revitalizing the spirit of what was in the minds of the people who founded this country and the belief that human life is valuable. And the biggest possession that we were given, the most valuable gift we were given, is free will.
That's right.
And that our rights are unalienable rights. They belong to us because we are humans. I won't go into the religion part of it. For those of you who will, you know we're talking about where it comes from, and I will pull no bones about that. But whether you are or not, the people who are rising up believe in that. It's time for us to reassert those things and to do it in a constitutional way. Now, when I say constitutional county, what does that mean? That means a county that's opening up those roads. That means that's a county that's making scientifically sound-based decisions. We'll protect the owls. We will protect the coho salmon, but we will also protect our economies and our communities and our children. We can do all of it now if it's based upon actual science and rational decision-making processes. It does require you, the farmers, the ranchers, to adopt a slightly different perspective that you are stewards of the land. Don't just say that you're the stewards of the land. You mean it when you say it. When I went up to Siskiyou County, I was quite interested because a few of them, like Dr. John Mackey, like Jerry Blanchgalupi, they were actually, they loved, Donna Blanchgalupi sitting there telling me, Kirk, I love my cows. I love my cows. I go to Marin County and I say, what do you think? We love our cows. Liberal, conservative, no. Forget the damn divides. They divide us. They all are really on the same side of the street. They just don't know it. But they believe that they're stewards of the land. They believe they're doing something good, and they are and have historically been doing something good, and they cannot comprehend the assault on them. The alternative, I'll tell you what the alternative scenario is. You either stand up and fight and restore the nation that was given to us and our unalienable rights. Here's the alternative. County government is going to be taken out of the equation. Cities will be taken out of the equation. The decision making will be passed to non-elected, non-accountable planning, central planning bodies. And that word central planning sounds familiar, it should. Essential planning is the nature of, they're called Soviets. That's what the name United Soviet Republic comes from. Central planning, long-range plans. What it means is no input from the people. It means that we're smarter than you are, and that we can plan the economy better than you can. How many different regional planning groups are there?
Too many.
In the Bay Area, it's called ABAG, the Association of Bay Area Governments. And what is it? It says, well, we need to get together to talk. Okay, you've got transportation crosses political boundaries, water crosses political boundaries. I understand that. Yeah, you do need to talk.
Or SACOG.
But guess what happens over time? I pick up the newspaper today in Palo Alto sitting there saying, hey, we can't meet the dictate you've given us to how many housing units we have to build. In other words, just like the federal government went from being a body to resolve or kind of coordinate efforts across sovereign states, or the United Nations to be a forum for discussion of sovereign countries, that's not their real intention. Their intention is to take that power away, and all of a sudden they become governments. So what was happening in the Klamath River? They wanted to do the Klamath Basin Restoration Agreement, the KBRA. A bunch of, quote, stakeholders, none of whom lived in the counties, by the way. A lot of people up in Portland, Oregon, a lot of federal government agents over here, Indians that don't even live in that particular area, all of whom either had a political or an economic stake in the outcome, come together and say, well, we have a plan on how to manage this. The Klamath Basin covers 9 counties, an area bigger than the state of Maryland. And they're going in the direction of saying, well, we have a plan, and we want the federal government to charter us to control the river. We'll make the decisions about the river. If your resources are being planned, your water, your land, your rights, your air, my God, we have to buy air now? Are being planned at a central planning body, and you're being given the dictate. What does local government need to do? Nothing. They're there just to enforce it. You might as well fire them and save the money.
Yeah.
That's the other alternative. And what happens in an economy like that? We know from the Soviet Union. People are demoralized and they stop working. If there is no upside, there is no incentive, there is no reward for merit, they have no influence in the decision-making process, they give up. They start drinking a lot of vodka, and they do the minimum amount of work that they can, and the economy eventually implodes. That's the alternative scenario B. For me, I've made the decision it's worth fighting to restore that first vision. Because if we cannot save it here in the United States, the entire world will be lost, and it'll be lost for the next 2 millennia minimum. For those of you who do understand the idea of working together, and I'm not asking you to commit your time or change your meetings or anything else, but to just become more cooperative in exchanging ideas, keeping up to date on what others are doing, and being there where they need you and you need them, who'd like to basically become part of this Defend Rural America network, please let me know. Come up after the meeting, just give me enough information I know how to reach you. And until as long as they last, I'm giving out free copies of the Constitutional County, for those who wish to do that. And I want to thank you very much for your time.